Welcome back to another Read Aloud. I'm starting to run out of things for you guys to watch while I'm reading, so if you have a good idea of something you want to see, please comment or send me a message, and I will take that seriously. We left out on chapter 22, so here it goes. Connor and I walked up to the door of the Tourette's support group. "Here we go again," he said under his breath as I opened the door. This month's group was smaller. Only Dexter, Jack, and Mason were there. "Hey, armless Avon," Dexter said. "Is that a new tick, Dexter?" I asked, thinking of his tendency to say inappropriate things. "What do you mean?" he said with a baffled expression on his face. I grinned at the floor. "Never mind." Dexter patted the seat next to him. "Come sit over here, chicken nipple." Connor and I sat in the two seats next to Dexter. "Where's everyone else?" I asked. "I don't know," Dexter said. "Maybe Rebecca slapped herself so hard, chicken nipple, that she's lying passed out on her kitchen floor." Jack snorted loudly. "That's not cool, Dex," he said. I shook my head. "Definitely not cool." "I'm sorry," he said, clearly doing his best to look innocent. "It could be the bathroom floor." "That's enough, Dexter." Andrea looked up from the clipboard she held in her lap. That almost crossing the line into making fun of instead of making fun with. She stared him down, but I could hear some playfulness in her voice. "I'm sorry," Dexter hung his head and stuck out his lip. "I won't do it again." He covered his mouth to hide his obvious grin. "Well, it looks like this is all we have today," Andrea said. "Why don't we go ahead and get started?" Since we all talked a little bit last month about fear of going out in public, I thought this month would be a good time to talk about some techniques for staying relaxed when we go out. There's no reason that any of you should feel you need to stay confined to your house out of fear of venturing out. It's so important that you all live your lives as normally as possible and feel comfortable with going out in public is a big part of that. "But what if we can't relax and our tics get really bad?" Jack said, letting out his loud whooping noise. "Don't already decide that you can't relax in public, Jack," Andrea said. "That's why I'm going to teach you some techniques you can use." "Are you going to tic in public?" "Probably, yes. You just have to accept that. But you don't have to let it get out of control." "Is this going to be about habit reversal training?" Connor asked. "Because I've already tried that." "What's that?" I asked him. Before he could answer me, Andrea said, "No, Connor, we're not going to be discussing habit reversal training today." Connor turned to me. "It's when you try to focus your attention on doing something that basically, competes with the tic as soon as you feel the urge. Over time, it's supposed to make you feel the urge to tic less." "Does it work?" I asked. "A little," Connor said, "but I haven't been really good about doing it." "It can work well for some kids," Andrea said, "but today, we're just going to focus on relaxing." I ignored her. "Maybe you should try it again if it helped," I told Connor. "I told you I'm not going to therapy anymore, Avon," he said. "Besides, it didn't work well for me." I frowned and kicked at my chair legs as Andrea went on about how to breathe deeply. We all closed our eyes, and she told us to breathe in slowly through our noses and out slowly through our mouths. I found it difficult to relax with Dexter repeatedly saying chicken nipple next to me, but I did my best. "Now," Andrea said in a soothing voice, "feel a warmth in your chest. A wonderful warmth that travels from your chest to your shoulders, now down your arms and into your fingertips." I couldn't help it. I totally burst out laughing. Then Connor and the other guys joined me. "You feel that warmth in your fingertips, Avon?" Dexter asked. Andrea tried to continue talking about the warmth drifting down our legs and feet, but everyone kept giggling and ticking. So eventually she gave up and talked to us about other ways we could relax in public. These included our breathing, visualization, meditation, and even counting or going over times tables. At some point, Andrea said that we should all have a goal we were working toward. It didn't need to be big, but something easily attainable. Like my parents had always taught me, one small goal at a time. Dexter said he wanted to make it through a meeting without calling his mom to check the stove. Andrea said that that was a good goal. Then Dexter asked if he could call his mom to check the stove. Jack said that he wanted to talk to this girl at school he liked. Not ask her out or anything, but just say hi. And Mason wanted to stop making farting noises. When Andrea asked me what my goal was, Connor and I looked at each other with knowing grins. But I wasn't about to tell the whole group about our murder investigation. Instead, I said I wanted to learn how to use nunchucks, which was also true. When Andrea asked Connor about his goal, I blurted, "Connor's going to challenge the next person who makes fun of him at school to a cage match." The others giggled, but Connor squinted at me suspiciously, then turned his attention to Andrea. "I guess I should try to get out somewhere," he said. "I haven't been anywhere but school and Stagecoach Pass since I moved." The way he said his goal felt non-committal, and I doubted that he would follow through with it. Andrea gave us the last 10 minutes to socialize, so everyone wanted me to show them what kinds of things I could do with my feet. Andrea handed me her clipboard, paper, and pen, and I wrote "People with arms are lame." I also opened up a water bottle and put my hair in a ponytail. Impressive stuff. "Wow, Avon," Dexter said. "You're like a superhero. Like totally awesome, armless superhero." "If only I had those nunchucks," I said. "Armless Avon," Dexter announced, "able to open water bottles with a single toe." I blushed. That darn idiopathic craniofacial arrhythmia. Not a single toe, but that's okay. I glanced at Connor, but he wasn't smiling. Actually, he looked downright annoyed. Later, on the way home in the car, I asked him, "What's the matter with you?" "Nothing." He slumped down in his seat and crossed his arms. "Dexter just thinks he's so funny." "He is funny," I said. "I can tell you think he's funny, but I don't." He turned away from me so that he could stare out the window. "He's starting to get on my nerves, calling you Armless Avon," he mumbled. "Someone at the support group calls you Armless Avon? Is that his Tourette's?" Mom asked. "No," Connor said. "It's from his stinky personality." I looked at Mom in the rearview mirror. I could tell from her wrinkled, squinty eyes that she was grinning. I grinned back and then looked out my own window, hardly able to keep myself from giggling. I had never, ever in my entire life made a boy jealous until now. Chapter 23. Christmas at Stagecoach Pass was actually pretty cool. My parents decided it was worth it to hire a company to come and decorate the park with lights and a big tree in the middle of Main Street. We pulled out all the old Christmas decorations out of storage and placed them around the park. Things like wreaths made of horseshoes and cowboy boots filled with fake poinsettias. Dad made sure that the company he hired strung lights over the covered wagon that marked the entrance. They also added the word Christmas after Stagecoach Pass, so everyone would know something a little different was going on. I had the idea to set up a booth that sold hot cocoa and s'mores fixings, and we lit fires in a couple of the old metal garbage cans. I had never expected the Arizona nights to get so cold. The weather even dipped below freezing a couple times. I actually got to wear earmuffs while I stood outside with Connor, roasting marshmallows over the fire. Well, he roasted marshmallows for me. I didn't exactly need my toes freezing off. "It's too bad that Zion's gone for winter break," I said. Zion and his family were spending 2 weeks in New Zealand. They'd gone all the way to the other side of the world to visit the movie sets from The Lord of the Rings. My dad had raised an eyebrow when I told him that and said, "I've got to meet these people." "Zion told me it's actually summer down there right now," I said. "How weird is that?" Connor didn't answer as he looked around and barked nervously. The roasting sticks he held over the fire shook a little. "This place is busier than ever," he said, and barked. The people roasting marshmallows across from us stared at him. "Don't let it scare you off," I said. Connor looked offended. "I won't. I mean, as long as they don't get too busy." I raised an eyebrow at him. "What qualifies as too busy?" Connor shrugged. "Busier than this." "Well, I hope that's not true, because I would miss you." "I'm sure it will be dead again once Christmas is over," Connor said, which was obviously reassuring to him, but not to me. I didn't want the park to get dead again. Connor pulled a marshmallow off of the stick and shoved it into my mouth. "Then things can go back to normal." "Adawada ganano," I said, my mouth stuffed full of marshmallow. "Huh?" I swallowed. "I don't want it to go back to normal." I want it to stay busy. You realize if the park closes down, my parents lose their jobs, and we probably have to move again. Connor frowned. I didn't think of that. He stuffed another marshmallow into my mouth. Then I hope it stays busy, just as long as it doesn't get too busy. We invited Connor and his mom over for Christmas Eve. We held a dinner in the steakhouse and invited all of the employees who didn't have a family to spend it with. Mom and Dad ordered 3 big turkeys. What can I do to help? I asked Josephine, who was ordering everyone around in the kitchen. They were busy making cornbread stuffing, mashed potatoes, corn, and of course cowboy beans, cornbread, and coleslaw, which I would most definitely not be eating. Coleslaw was ruined for me for life and would forevermore be known as pit slaw. Josephine handed me a masher. Why don't you mash up them potatoes? She stuck the giant pot of potatoes on the floor for me, and I worked on handling the masher with my feet. Several of the employees stopped to watch, but Josephine told them all to skedaddle. Those will be the best mashed potatoes you ever put in your mouth, she snapped at anyone who raised an eyebrow at me mashing the potatoes. At one point, Henry walked in. He put his hands on his hips. Avon Kavanaugh, he scolded. What are you doing with your feet in the food? I don't think Josephine could have looked more shocked than if a tarantula the size of a horse had trampled through the room. You crazy old kook, she said to Henry. Don't you know her name by now? Get out of here and make yourself useful. She shooed him out of the room, and neither one of them returned. When I was done with the potatoes, I peeked my head through the swinging doors of the kitchen. I watched Connor and his mom sitting at a table together, with my mom talking and laughing. I knew that this was the first time they had eaten in a restaurant together since Connor's tics had started, so I was glad to see Connor looked so comfortable, although he didn't eat much during dinner. As we all sat together at the table, I whispered to Connor, Henry just called me Avon Kavanaugh in the kitchen. He scrunched up his nose. Like you said, he gets really confused. I picked up my fork with my toes and stabbed a big bite of turkey. I guess. He does keep confusing me for someone else, but why would he think I was a Kavanaugh? Connor shrugged. Maybe you look like a Kavanaugh. I shoved the bite of turkey into my mouth and chewed as I thought about this. If only we could find that missing picture from the museum, I said. Maybe that would tell us something. We'll just have to keep searching the storage shed. There's got to be something in all that junk. I nodded as I stabbed another chunk of turkey. I hope so. That evening, Mom and Dad gave me my Christmas present, a pair of turquoise and silver earrings that they had purchased from a Navajo woman. I thought that if I ever got that necklace cleaned up and maybe got a new chain for it, it would look nice with my new earrings. I also thought that this Navajo woman should come and sell her jewelry at Stagecoach Pass. Actually, I couldn't stop thinking of things we should do at the park. I had a lot of ideas. Later that night, I dragged Dad out to go tarantula hunting. I'd done this several times before. I had become obsessed with finding a live tarantula. He held the flashlight for me so that I could sneak up on any holes that I had found earlier in the day, thinking that they might be tarantula burrows. But I never did find one. No matter how much I searched, I began to wonder if I ever would. Chapter 24. The fun and success of Christmas had me thinking a lot about Stagecoach Pass. The park had gotten old and tired. Everyone in town had visited at one point and didn't feel the need to come back. There was no draw. Even the food at the steakhouse probably got old because they only served a few different things. Something needed to change, or there wouldn't be a Stagecoach Pass for a very long time. And then, who knew where we'd go? My parents were so busy keeping up with all the little tasks that went into running the place that they didn't have time to see the bigger picture. But I did. As we sat down one chilly January night for dinner together, I told them my ideas. You know, I walked through Stagecoach Pass yesterday, and I counted 17 empty storefronts, I said, as I took a bite of roll. 17! Dad sighed. I know. This place is like a ghost town. It makes the place look sad, I said. We need to get some stuff in here for people to do. Stuff for people to buy. It takes money to fill the buildings with employees and merchandise, Mom said. I frowned. Can't we take out a loan? I heard you have to spend money to make money. Dad laughed. Where'd you hear that? On a commercial. Well, that may be true sometimes, Dad said. But I think the park already took a couple of loans just to keep going. I'd have to talk to Gary about that, but I don't think it's an option. I think there's some other way to get stuff in here, I said. Dad took a swig out of his water. I suppose we could rent the spaces, but then we'd have to worry about finding businesses and what kind of businesses should be allowed to rent here. Of course, I said. We would want it all to be cowboyish. I eyed both of them. You know, I've been writing down ideas for a while now. Ideas for the park. We'd love to hear your ideas, sweetie, Mom said. I went back to my room, grabbed my notebook, and returned to the table. I opened it with my toes. Things that Stagecoach Pass needs to bring in business, I read aloud. Number 1. I looked at them dramatically. A lighter food option. We have the steakhouse for big, fat, heavy, greasy meals, and we have the soda shop for a large ice cream sundae when you only ask for a single cone. But there's no deli or sandwich shop or anything like that for a nice little lunch. I could tell that they liked the idea, so I went on. Number 2, coffee and smoothies. Whenever Mom and I go shopping, I notice the malls always have some kind of coffee and smoothie place. Number 3, more shopping. Navajo jewelry like the earrings you bought me, a cool leather shop, and a hat store that specializes in custom cowboy hats. Stuff like that. Wow, Avon, Dad said. Those are all great ideas. It's just complicated, honey. How is it complicated? Well, Mom said, for one thing, how do we even find these vendors? I shrugged and went back to eating my dinner. Sorry my ideas had fallen flat. Then I remembered Mr. Jeffries, my art teacher, telling us about an art festival in town called Fountain Hills that was happening next week. He encouraged us all to go and check out the local artists' work. There's a giant art festival in Fountain Hills next weekend, I said. There will be like 500 artists. Maybe we could go find some cool vendors there. Mom and Dad looked at each other. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to go and check it out, Mom said. Might be fun. And what if we had our own art festival, I said, getting excited now, with artists and food and music and fireworks. Mom and Dad both laughed. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Dad said, but I couldn't help it. My mind was going crazy now. It's a great opportunity for the artists to check out Stagecoach Pass and see if they might want to rent out a space here. Main Street is huge. We could have a huge art festival. You should have it by early April before it gets too hot outside. Oh, and I saw this show about food trucks and... Slow down, Sheebs, Dad said. How about we start with visiting this festival and see how it goes from there? But if we're going to have our own art festival, the best way to let the artists know would be to tell them about it at this art festival in Fountain Hills. I'd have to get approval before doing anything, Dad said. You mean from the dead owner? Dad laughed. Avon, the owner's not dead. And yes, I'd have to get approval from the very much alive owner. But I thought you said he gave you total free rein over the park. There are also permits and a whole bunch of stuff to take care of, Dad said. Then get on it, Daddy-o. Time's a-wastin'. He looked at me with pride in his eyes. My daughter, the ultimate problem solver. You have trained me well, Jedi Master, I said. Very good Jedi learner person. I rolled my eyes at him. Not quite, Dad. Zion's parents would have had a way better comeback. So, speaking of dead owners, Mom said, what's going on with your top secret investigation? Find any more clues about the Kavanaughs? Not really. The guitar was the last thing we found. The boys had brought it up to the apartment for me, and I'd shown it to my parents. They thought it was pretty cool, but it didn't really tell us anything about the Kavanaughs. And just because the last initial was C, didn't mean it belonged to a Kavanaugh. But you know how I told you Henry always talks to me like he thinks I'm someone else? They nodded. Well, he called me Avon Kavanaugh on Christmas Eve. Don't you think that's kind of weird? Mom and Dad looked at each other. That is mildly intriguing, said Dad. Strange, said Mom. But he did call me Elizabeth Taylor the other day. She ran a hand through her long dark hair. Easy to see how he could make the mistake, of course. I had no idea who Elizabeth Taylor was, but Dad said, absolutely, as he carried his empty plate to the sink. I have to go check out the old buildings with the broken down bowl. One of the workers told me that they peeked in the window and saw a bunch of mice running around. He groaned. The keys in the office are all such a mess. I hope I can figure out which one even opens it. What keys? I asked him. Keys to the park, he said. The most important ones are all labeled. But there's about 50 that I have no idea what they're there for. I have a feeling I'm going to be there all night trying out keys. I didn't know you had all those keys, I said. Of course I have keys, Sheep. I can't run this place without keys. Well, it just so happens I'm looking for a key. Okay, that's the end of chapter 24, and I'm going to stop it there, right at the beginning of chapter 25. I will see you guys next time. Remember to comment if you have any ideas of a background, image, or video I could have going while I'm reading. Alright guys, have a good day. Bye-bye.